Hi everyone. In this tutorial, we will talk about classes in Python. Python is an object-oriented programming language, and everything in Python is an object, where class is like an object constructor. We can define classes using the class keyword followed by the class name, and then we can instantiate attributes to the class on the next line with an indentation. We can instantiate a class using the class name and parentheses, just like we call a function. And we can access class attributes using this instantiation. I can print the variable one of that class here. We can define functions in the class as well. So for example, I can say def my function. I can pass the object as self, and then I can print the variable using self.variable. So self is actually the class itself. After I have instantiated the class, now I can access the class functions as well and run these. So here, for example, I can print this value. I can also pass variables to the class as well using the init function. For example, instead of instantiating the attribute here, I can define an init function and then pass the variables which I will need to pass through this init function. And I can assign that to class attributes using the self keyword. Now in my function, I can print both the variables. I need to pass the variables some values as well. And you can see these values have been printed. I can have multiple instantiation of the classes as well, and they will carry different values in the variables. For example, I can have another instantiation as y, again class name. This time I can pass values, for example, value 3 and value 4. Now if I execute y.my function, you can see that now this has printed value 3 and value 4. Let's have a look at class inheritance now. Let's suppose I have got this class from a well-established Python package, but I don't like the way it prints the values, or I don't like any function which I want to improve. So what I can do is I can again use the class keyword. I can say my fancy class and then inherit all the attributes, all the functions from the parent class. So again, I would define the init function, and here you can see I would use super. I don't need to reassign self.var var1 or var2. Now what I want to do is I want to modify my function. So one way is that we can obviously inherit from the base class, but I don't like this one. Let's suppose I want to print in a different way. So I want a long line before and after the print statement. So what I can do is, again, this time I'm going to instantiate my fancy class instead of class name. Again, pass the values as before with the same values. And if I call my function now, you can see it has printed a line above and below automatically. Another example of class inheritance is that in some cases we want to keep the functions which are defined in the parent class, but we would like to add new functionalities. And for example, here I can say class, a new class which inherits from the class which I have defined here. So it inherits from my fancy class where I like this way of printing. So again, I would define init, which would just use super init. It will instantiate the class as in the parent class. and it will keep the function, my function, from the parent class as well. But now let's suppose I want to add two values and print. That's my additional functionality which I would like to add. I'm going to print the values with addition of self var1 and var2. So that's my additional functionality. So again, I can instantiate the class now. Instead of my fancy class, I can say my fancy class 2, and I can now print my new function. So this is printed using this function, but as if I try to run the old function, which it has inherited from the parent class, you would see I can still run that function as well and print the values as before. There is more to classes, for example, with magic functions like defining generators and iterators, and using some other magic functions as well. But that's all for today. I hope you understand class and class inheritance now in Python. Subscribe for more videos. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.